order this meeting of the Eureka Springs Hospital Commission on June the 20th at 6:02 p.m. Roll call, please. Angie, you want to start with you?
Angie Shaw, Hospital CEO.
Mike Dwyer, Commission.
David Carlisle, Commissioner.
Judy Gigi, Secretary.
Sharon Doremus, Commission.
And I am Barbara Dix, Chair, and Kent Turner is absent with notice. So the first thing we need to do is have a motion to approve the minutes from May the 16th and amend it to also say June the 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 16th and our special meeting June 13th, 2020.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor
Aye.
by
Aye.
saying aye. And we can say aye to both dates, right?
Yep.
Or should they be separate?
We can vote separate, that's fine.
Okay. So now we need a motion for the June 13th.
I'll make a motion for the June 13th as well.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Now, motion to approve the agenda as written. If there's any changes or deletions. Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I don't see any public out here for public comments. And the next thing is committee reports, which Kent has a finance committee that's meeting, but he is not here tonight, so we will just move on from the committee reports. Angie, CEO report.
Okay. I did hand out a copy of that. I'm just going to hit the highlights on it. COVID-19, I'm sure you guys have seen that it has been on the rise. We have seen an increase in our community as well. Over the past several weeks, we've had 38 positive COVID tests. And due to that increase in the community, we have re-implemented some safety back into the facility. We added back our plexiglass barriers in all the break areas and cafeteria, as well as masks are again required in all non-clinical areas, which was like the office spaces. We did this just to provide an extra layer of safety for both our patients and our staff. Our next vaccine clinic is actually scheduled for this Friday. I know we've had a lot of questions on when it is. It's Friday, June 24th from 11 to 3, and that will be at the clinic across from the hospital. In nursing administration, they're focusing on education. Our next educational course that's coming up is TNCC, which is the Trauma Nurse Core course, and that is for ER nurses. And everyone that is currently not certified or their certification is getting ready to lapse, they will be attending that course in July. Respiratory therapy is currently working on a proposal to bring in some new inpatient, outpatient services. Once I get that information, I'll be presenting it here to the commission. Our speech therapist, Lee, has been approved to provide outpatient services in patient homes and is currently marketing that service. I believe she has had a few patients so far. And Lab is currently working on providing an outpatient wellness screening program. This would provide the most common screening labs at a reduced cost. And once this is been finalized, I will also bring that to the commission with more information. This is something that we'll be able to offer through the hospital, but possibly take it to health cares and into the community as well. The ER continues to hit record patient utilization. We are currently advertising for support staff for weekends. Those, as you know, being a tourist town, we see a lot of patients during the weekends, and we just need that extra staff. So we're actually advertising for ER techs, LPNs, and RNs to help kind of fill those extra needs. And another issue with ER is transport. We are having a lot of issue getting patients transferred out for a higher level of care. This is due to there's a lot of transport companies that have closed within the past couple of months, and just the need from other facilities too is just making it impossible for us to get them to come to our rural hospital. We are looking at some different options. One of those options is including purchasing and operating our own transport ambulance for our patients. We are in the infancy stage on this option. We're just discovering what we would need to do to start one up and how that would affect our facility. So once I get more information on that, I will be presenting it as an option. The business office and clinic, the hospital clinic, the patients continue to remain low. We are going to look at focusing more on increasing community awareness of the services that the clinic offers, our hours. And we are currently advertising for a full-time or a part-time physician to practice out of that clinic to provide primary care services for the community. The Health Information Management Department has hired a new coder as well as a new medical records clerk, so they are fully staffed. And they are focusing on training and implementing the new coding program that they purchased this month. There's no new report for human resources other than they continue to post our needs and reach out to career fairs and so forth to try to bring staff into our facility. Maintenance, housekeeping, dietary, and IT. If you've driven past the hospital lately, you've noticed that we have a new sign out front, and of course the new awnings. All of that has been completed now. We actually had the new sign in the paper, I believe, for, I guess, kind of its grand unveiling with Mayor Butchberry. We have gotten a lot of compliments compared to what was there before, and I've heard from patients that it has made it easier to find us, especially tourists. The rear outer wall that had bowed has been repaired, and the foundation was stabilized. Currently, Becky, our maintenance director, is looking for a company to come in and repair that brick. It will require them to remove it and then put it back in place. And they are also looking at drainage options to keep water from pooling next to the foundation there, so this can be prevented in the future. The hospital was approved for a new UV disinfection system that will be placed in all patient rooms as well as public spaces, and it even comes with a portable UV robot. This system was covered by a grant that we received by the facility, and I do not have the ETA on when that will be installed, but it was approved and it should be coming soon. IT is currently updating surveillance equipment due to a server network issue. They were also able to locate a recycle company to take all of our old, outdated, broken computers and electronics, which has freed up some valuable storage space. If you know, the hospital storage is a premium, so they actually picked all of that equipment up this past week. I did give you a copy of Samantha's marketing report, just to hit some high notes on that too. We did present a $1,500 scholarship to Eureka Springs High School senior Allison Smith. That was held at the award ceremony on Friday, May 20th. Allison is pursuing a degree in medical coding. She was extremely thankful. We had a community appreciation cookout with Elite Home Health on Tuesday, May 24th. Unfortunately, it was extremely cold that day and rainy, but it still had a turnout, so we consider it a success. We had several community members come in. We were able to have the ambulance, paramedics, EMTs come over for lunch, so it turned out well. And then we were also able, we sent our photos into the Arkansas Hospitals magazine, and they did post our pictures in their magazine, which we're waiting patiently for a copy. They did send us kind of a print copy or a digital copy, but we should be getting the magazine in soon. And just some other upcoming notes. Holiday Island Fire Department Golf Tournament, we are a sponsor of. That's coming up this Saturday. And the Eureka Springs Rotary Annual Scramble for Scholarships, also a golf that we sponsor, is July 16th. Any questions?
Thank you, Angie. Does anybody have any questions for Angie? Okay. We will move on to the CFO report. Bill?
All right, very good. I want to turn first to the bank balances page 1. It's actually the second page in the handout for that. Bring to your attention 2 items on page 1. The operations figure at the end of May, $527,000, included the $407,000 that we owed to Medicare for the 2021 cost report. And I remind you that Medicaid owes us about $240,000. So we'll be getting the majority of that back at some point down the road. Typically, it takes them about 45 days from the date of acceptance. So you're looking at May the 25th, so 45 days from then, so probably the first part of August, knowing the way they work. The second item I want to point out is in the April balances, the commission CD matured, and by the end of May, it had been consolidated with the commission money market. And I also point out that the commission money market, we actually repaid $150,000 that the CFO managed to appropriate out of the wrong money market account, if you'll recall last month's report. I do so point out my deficiencies when they occur. I just love it. The next page, let's look at our revenue for the month. For the month of May, it was $1,386,000. That represents a 34% increase over last month, and then a 23% increase over last year. You'll notice that our CAT scan at $335,000 is well above the average for 5 months of 212. Laboratory just above the average, but ER, the revenue, not necessarily the visits, not the utilization, but the revenue itself for ER was down below the average of $201,000 for the month. On the next page, let's look at our income statement. I want to point out something in the first section, the total patient revenue. This year, $5.9 million. That represents a $1,080,000 increase over last year. It's 22%. So things are headed in the right direction there. Speaking of patient revenue, we had a charge master review done by Vonda Russell, and we are in the process of making some suggested increases in some of our charges. Nothing across the board. We didn't feel like that was necessary, but we are making some selective increases that will improve our situation, if you will. Deductions from revenue represent 33% of revenue, and our bad debt expense is at 5.8%. And in today's economy, that's about what the normal is running these days. Our total operating expenses, you'll note a $530,000 increase. So when you increase revenues, typically your expenses also go up. And we've had to raise some wages to retain some folks, and that's to be expected in these COVID times. We are actually showing a profit for the month of $237,000. On the next page, looking at our balance sheet, just a couple of items I want to point out. Our cash balance, $3.6 million. The accounts receivable figure just below the cash in the left-hand column under this month, you'll note that's $1,678,000. That is actual after net of deductions from revenue or the allowance for contractuals. So that said, it's a $207,000 increase over the prior month. And then our allowance for bad debts. And I will say this, with Roger's input, we do keep a very high, almost 95% allowance against our bad debts for self-pay patients. So that's pretty strong, but it's very consistent, and so we maintain it at that level. Under our liabilities, the only item really of any note other than our long-term capital lease is our position on accounts payable, and it was up slightly over last month by $27,000. And that is the end of my report. The last page is actually mostly blank, except for a total. And so I would entertain any questions or thought processes. I do want to err to the side of caution on getting into the ambulance transporting of patients business, and will be, because it is not, for Medicare purposes and Medicaid purposes, it is not cost-based reimbursed. And here comes my train right at on time. So pardon for just a second.
I forgot he's on the train tracks.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I never heard the train.
Well, I have a pretty good canceling microphone on this, but it gets pretty loud for me, so if y'all say anything, I can't hear, because I got this one ear open, so it gets the joys of living next to the train tracks. I grew up, swore I'd never do it after I got out of my childhood home, but that wasn't the case. Some things come back on you. So that's the end of my report. And, I do want to point out two things. In our finance meetings, we are working towards developing a 3-year capital budget. And we'll be working towards, once we get June closed down, we'll be working on projecting that for a budget for next year. So we will have an operating and a capital budget for your perusal at some point down the road. And once we get June closed out, I'm going to do a 6-month interim cost report. So we'll know where we stand with Medicare and Medicaid this year based on what our expenses are and what our reimbursement rates are. And that's always a very good position to know.
So, Bill, what you're saying is any ambulance cost will not come off of the cost report, right?
It will have to stand on its own. And I'll have to, do they have an ambulance service in Berryville?
Yes, and we have a great one here in Eureka, but
Okay.
they can't normally transport out of the Western District of Carroll County. So what we're talking about is just for our patients, when we get someone that we can't find a transport for, that's what, we would not go into business or competition with our city ambulance. This is just for our patients. Is that right, Angie?
That's correct. It would just be to transfer patients to a higher level of care, because we're now sitting on patients in the ER for anywhere from 48 to 72 hours because we can't get them transferred.
Okay. Well, I just want to be sure we review that thoroughly and understand what it means to us.
Yes.
And because with an ambulance service within 35 miles, it will not be cost-based.
Yeah.
So for Medicare and Medicaid purposes. So that's, well, Medicaid for sure. And then Medicare, it will not be. So anyway, I just point that out, and I'm not, I just want to get all our ducks in a row, if you will.
Right, and you certainly will be part of that conversation as we look into it. So we'll bring that up at another time. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? All right, it does, we'll move on. Thank you, Bill.
You bet. Thank y'all. I'll hang around and listen.
Well, it's going to be short and sweet. Does anybody have anything they want on the agenda for next month's meeting? No? Okay. Commission comments. Judy? No? Sharon? No? Y'all are a noisy bunch. David?
No, when I heard the idea of doing transport, I thought that might be a tricky proposition.
It is.
Bill's already, so that'll be something to investigate.
Yeah.
That is strictly what it is. We're just looking at all of our options at this
Sure.
point.
Sure.
Mike?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Angie, do you have anything to add?
No?
Okay, then the chair comments. Our next workshop meeting, which is July the 2nd, the architect has plans to be here with the first block of space that he's come up with, so that should be a very interesting meeting, and everybody is invited that would like to sit in on that meeting. And
When's that meeting?
that meeting is Saturday, July the 2nd.
Oh,
at
a
Main-
regular meeting.
Yeah, at Main Stage at 12 noon. Then our next regular meeting is at 6 p.m. on July the 18th here at the auditorium. And like Angie said, we will be giving vaccine and booster shots this Friday, and I would hope that everybody does not let their guard down because COVID is back. It's rearing its ugly head, and we don't really know how many's out there because people are home testing and not reporting it, but there's many sick with it. So, okay, with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank y'all. See y'all.
Bye, Bill.